meeting. And as we stand now here at the beginning of the meeting, June 21st, 2023, we have taken a quick poll of attendees. And as of right now, we do not have, we're one vote short of a quorum. The only action item that we need activity on is, of course, adopting the minutes that were previously distributed from the meeting of October the 19th, 2022.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So what I would suggest we do, unless somebody pipes in, can Senator Clay and Representative Gaines and I go ahead and vote? I'll make a motion that we adopt the minutes from October of 2022 from the subcommittee meeting.
I'll second. I'll second.
Thank you, Houston. And we'll go ahead and have that. And we'll go ahead and call the vote as far as Chuck and Roger and Houston, and then we'll let you guys solicit additional votes as well. Okay.
Okay.
So all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
And aye. So you've already got 3 votes in the affirmative there. So obviously, if we get one more vote from the committee, that will take care of it. The next issue that we had to discuss is the child support tables. And so to kind of give a little background, we previously approved the 2022 child support report, but we have the option of course, adding tables to go with that before it goes to legislation for the General Assembly. So to give a little bit of background, when we first went through the child support analysis rigorously back in 2006, I think it was, we considered at that time 2 of the dominant methodologies for estimating the child support. One was the Engel methodology and one was the Rothbard. And at that time, there were arguments in favor of each. The concern was that Engel might be a little bit biased up and that Rothbard might be a little bit biased down. So what the commission decided to do was to take the average of those 2 as a best estimator. And that's the basis for the tables that we've used up until now. Jane Venor, who's been on several meetings with us, has looked into this deeply, came back, reported back that the Engel estimates had actually dropped significantly, and we're getting a little bit questionable about their performance and how accurate they were. And so one of the issues that we've been discussing is whether to just go with Rothbard, which is what, as Elaine reminded me in our discussion this morning, is where how many states out of 50 do it?
I think Noel, was it?
Noel would know.
You said 30?
Oh, you know what? I'll put my hand on that number in just a second. It's a lot used just Rothbard. I believe it's in the 30s. I'll double check.
Okay. And so where that has caused a little bit of heartburn is that the child support payments for lower income families will go down versus where the current tables are if we just use Rothbard. So one of the things that was suggested was to take use Rothbard for everyone except the low income individuals. So effectively what you'd be doing is Rothbard would be a lower, the old tables would be a lower bound on what the child support would be. And while that would address that issue about the decrease in support at lower income levels, it really pulls us away from making decisions based on economic methodology. So 2 things I wanted to put on the table, and I don't think we don't have the votes to make a decision today anyway, but I've been trying to correspond with Jane Venor a little bit and looking at a couple of options, including taking the previous tables and then just adjusting them for inflation. Because, over time, basically the price level's gone up about anywhere from 42 to 50%, depending how you measure it, since 2006. And so we certainly want to capture that in the tables. The other thing to consider is that our subcommittee on the low income deviation has been working extremely hard. They have a meeting this Friday, and it may well be the case that concerns about decreases in the lower income child support can be handled through the courts in the deviation capacity. Noel, Latonya, Elaine, does that all kind of line up with what we've discussed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I would prefer to do, we don't have the votes today to pick a table anyway, but what I would prefer to do is to spot us a couple more weeks to go back and forth with Jane to do a little more analysis, and then we come back to the commission, the Economic Study Committee in a few weeks, and we'll pick that date in a moment. and we say, okay, here's where we stand. Either it's just Rothbard, or it's Rothbard with adjustments that we've made, or it's taking the 2006 methodology and bringing it forward. And at that time, I think we need to forward to the Child Support Commission the tables that we think are viable and our recommendation for which one should be selected. And then the whole commission would make that determination.
May I add one thing, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
And I was going to say this as much for Houston, and you may know this. I was in the General Assembly, I was in the Senate when all this was being discussed and passed and actually legislated. I don't want to go back through any of that, but it was always a concern going back then that as it well should be, is more for the lower socioeconomic order there when we move from a percentage of gross to a model of a shared income, or looking at the entire cost of raising a family and trying to portion that in some sort of rational and fair, at the same time looking out for the needs of kids. I was concerned, and I do remain concerned, adopting any model straightforward that would have reductions, particularly those at that lower end. And while I've not discussed in detail, I think the chairman's thought of an inflationary index without moving away fundamentally from what has been there and his work is a good one. I know the devil's in the detail, and I'll rely on the good Dr. Tutterow to answer all those in great form and come back with recommendations. But I very much it appeals to me, looking back over time, it interests me much, and hopefully maybe it's something that creates a comfort level across the board as we go forward. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Chuck. And we, and again, we have not done the analysis yet, so we don't know how the numbers will come out, whether they will be, because whatever changes things at the bottom will also change things at the top. And so we'll have to look at that. And then I think what we're probably going to end up having to do is choose between something like that or going with Rothbard and trusting in the low income deviations to correction to solve the problem.
Simpler the better.
Yeah. And again, I tend to have good confidence in our judiciary to use their judgment in setting child support. The guidelines are just that, of course. So any more discussion on this matter? Okay, so the next issue that we would have to do would be to set a date for the Economic Subcommittee to meet again, looking at staff's calendars and a couple of other folks, mine including Wednesday, July the 26th. Is that right there, Elaine? Seems
Right.
to be a pretty good time. I don't have any preference. Let me ask this. I mean, we appreciate our judges serving on these committees. Is there a better time of the day for them where they're not on the bench?
I don't know, Dr. Tutterow, if there is a better time. It's, I think we just have to go with what we select, and then if they can join us, they can. But if it's that far, if it's enough out in the future, maybe they can work around their calendars.
Okay.
So, I mean, staff is fine with, say, a morning meeting appointment time, 10 o'clock. What is your preference from the members?
Doesn't matter to me. I know for most judges, they either have calendar calls or morning. Now you can do it very early, which is fine with me. That's generally, I'm awake earlier and I'm asleep now. Or later in the afternoon, simply because if a jury's out, or they can schedule and say, I'm going to leave the bench at 2:30 or 3 or 3:30 or something like that. Some would work through lunch, but it doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
Houston, do you have a preference?
No, I'm flexible, on the 26th, especially. I look pretty good if that's the date we do.
Yes. So it sounds like we're saying that maybe the afternoon is better.
That should be fine. And Elaine, when we send out the e-vote on the minutes, we should go ahead and ask, how that 26 looks.
Okay.
And I'll reach out to individual subcommittee members and see if they have any concerns or questions that they have for us, so that hopefully everyone can make an informed decision when we meet.
Okay. And we will.
For the record, we've all put a lot of time in. And I mean, the truth is, one of the great things about this Child Support Commission is they do their best to protect the interest of children in the state of Georgia, but they also recognize that the stakeholders of custodial, non-custodial parents as well.
Okay. Thank you. So we're gonna say 2 o'clock on the 26th. Does that sound okay? Because it sounded like what Mr. Clay was saying is it might be better for the afternoon for judges.
That works for me.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so that's really it, since we'll do the e-vote on the minutes, and we've had, and obviously we've laid out where the game plan will be for the 26th. Any more questions?
Dr. Teterow, did you want to mention anything about the commission meeting on the 11th of August?
Please, if you will, Elaine.
Okay, so the 11th August is the next commission meeting, full commission, and that will be at 10 o'clock on that day at the Nathan Deal Justice
Judicial Center?
Center. Is it judicial or justice? I've just
Uh-huh.
forgotten. I am so sorry. And it will also be through Zoom as well.
Did you say 10 o'clock, Elaine?
Yes, I did, 10 o'clock.
Okay, right.
Okay.
I had it at 10 p.m. on my calendar, so
Oh.
I'm assuming.
10 a.m. Yes.
Houston's gonna be sitting there saying, okay, 10 more minutes, then I'm out of here. Yeah.
I'm in bed at that point. You won't see me at all.
Yeah, remind me that date again, Elaine, so I'll make sure it's on
It's
mine.
August 11th.
Okay, great. 10 a.m. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, well, again, hopefully we'll get some more feedback from Jane on ideas on how to address any concerns people have. And we'll be able to hopefully wrap all that up on the 26th. So any business for the calls of members of the commission, the subcommittee?
Great job.
Okay, well, hearing none, I think we stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.